Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio.
You're listening to What Women Want with Judy Goss and Kristen West, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to What Women Want Talk Radio. Thank you for joining us for our show tonight, Speaking Up and Out. Kristen West and I are co-hosting this amazing show, which just got picked up for TV. Yes, we're going to be coming out with a TV show. We're rolling it in from radio to TV. And I will actually get to see Kristen while we're hosting. Oh, my gosh. Imagine that. I'm broadcasting from New York, and she's out in our studio in L.A. And we also have other news, too. We're on iHeartRadio's platform now. So you can listen to us. I was going to say see us all over the place. That's next. But you can now listen to us all over the place, too. So we're very excited. We have so many great announcements. Right, Kristen?
It's very exciting to see the growth of the show, and the reason we're growing is because we're having great conversations about the things that really matter to women. And I'm so happy to be part of this, and just really happy to have these conversations with the great ladies that we're having tonight, too.
Me too. I get so excited every week. I just can't believe it. After, almost over 4 years I've been doing this. And Kristen, having you on the show for the past couple of years consistently has really grown the show also with your input and your eloquent way of saying things and treating the guests. So I'm just, so thankful for that as well. And of course, we would not even have a show without you, all of our listeners out there. So we want to thank you for listening. What Women Want Talk Radio has reached over 1.5 million, almost 1.5 million downloads. I can't lie. Almost 1.5 million downloads since we first did the airways. Nuts. I love it. And between latalkradio.com's archives, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, now iHeartRadio, and Spreaker.com, all over social media, of course, you can find us everywhere. So listen to those replays. And we're also taking sponsors for our show for the next few months. So email us for a complete deck through our website at whatwomenwantradio.com. Speaking up and out. We've certainly seen that from women in the past 24 hours in America, at least, changing the landscape of the political arena dramatically. I'm going to have the women take credit there. There are a lot of ways we could go with this. But first and foremost, I'm just so proud of the way women have been daring to lead and not follow anymore. Right, Kristen? And in different industries and careers and politics and the Me Too movement. It's just amazing.
This year has definitely been the year of the woman and of women's empowerment and women speaking up and speaking out. And not only speaking up and speaking out, but there's also acting and acting out and acting on our principles and showing up and being present for what we care about, and especially for each other. And I think that's the amazing takeaway from last night and just this past year.
That's true. And my friend Catherine Marshall always says, and you also mentioned in the beginning of the show about the conversations, the conversations you can have with people. And I feel like sometimes men, joke about the fact that, women talk so much, and that sort of thing. But I feel like that is one of the things that's missing, perhaps, when we have male leaders, is they're not talking about things as much as they should be. They're not throwing the compassion in and the understanding necessarily that women do.
Well, I think sometimes it's hard sometimes there's an empathy gap. Mm-hmm. And if you don't live the experience of being a woman, or you don't live the experience of being a person of color, or you don't live the experience of being, in a minority, or you don't have that experience, it's sometimes hard to understand where that person is coming from. And part of being in a democracy is that we have representation. And women are 50% of the country, so you would think that there would be 50% representation. But that's not. There. We're getting there. We're getting there, and so
we're making big strides.
We're making big strides. So, and part of being represented is having our stories told in a way that is life affirming and compassionate, and also, I would say, gives us an idea of how to move forward together, hand in hand. Not just that women are moving forward, but the society as a whole moves forward because women are moving forward. and upward too.
Right, and influencing each other. And our guests are going to talk about just that, Heather Ann Havenwood and Odette Peak, coming up in just a minute. My background originally comes from high fashion modeling with Ford New York, and after that I experienced the other side of the camera and became a magazine editor and then an author with St. Martin's Press. And now I'm back in front of the camera, currently hosting my second season of AWE's luxury real estate TV show, Behind the Gates. And I'm also a regular contributor on NBC and Fox all over the country, and also a mom of twin teenagers. And finally, I'm an entrepreneur. As if I'm not busy enough, I founded the company What Women Want Networking and What Women Want National Conference, which we actually just finished our second year a couple of weeks ago. Kristen, you're rocking it out with several careers also, and your newest award for supporting actress at the Fantastic Film Festival just recently. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, I was very honored to receive Best Supporting Actress in a Short Film, and it's interesting, that role was for The Spirit Room, and I'm actually sort of an avenging feminist ghost, which is kind of interesting.
Welcome to the show.
Yes, welcome to the show. But it was an honor, and I love the Fantastic Horror Film Festival. Joanne Thomas calls herself the woman in charge of that film festival. She's an amazing voice in the horror community. We've had her on a few times here. And we're also working on Horror Talk with Kristen West on the 16th. We're going to be giving you an interview with the amazing Hal Havens. He played Stooge in the original Night of the Demons. So check that out, coming not this Friday, but the following Friday. So we're working on a lot of stuff right now.
And I'm coming out to LA to see you soon.
I'm excited.
All right, let's bring on Heather Ann Havenwood. She is the CEO of Like a Boss Digital Media, an influencer marketing agency designed to specifically work with brands, influencers, and thought leaders in the crypto, blockchain, alternative technology markets. Services include influencer guesting placement, influencer and brand placement, podcast show brand creation, influencer message, and brand consulting. Welcome back to the show, Heather Ann.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, ladies. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, you have quite a story, too. My gosh, let's get bossy. Wow. I mean, your career started in a surprising way for where you are now, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I mean, the last time I was on your show, actually, a year ago, it's changed just in the last year, much less the last 20 years. But I got my start, I think a lot like a lot of women, when we started entrepreneurship. That's not where I got my start. I got my start in corporate America and sales. And about 15, 20 years ago, I actually kind of stumbled into this thing called information marketing and started traveling the country doing seminars. But in the last couple of years, like you ladies, I've been really focusing on branding and getting myself out there with a voice. I'm now on a national syndicated radio show in the last year. Actually 2 years now, believe it or not. I got 2 years. I'm national syndicated radio. And one of the things that I'm finding is a big challenge for myself and some of my clients as a woman is that having a voice consistently and staying in my own power. I'm so excited about what's happened in the last 24 hours as we're talking here with more women being represented in our democracy is pretty powerful. But I still deal with every single day personally as I interview people and as I seek out other women entrepreneurs. I'm always looking for where are the women? Where are they speaking out? And how can I support them and how can I empower them? So in the last 6 months, I've really focused on how is it that we as women can start to be influencers versus just experts. And
so how can we? Let's hear it. Tell us. Because you have such a lengthy background in this arena. You were, what were you, the top 50 entrepreneurs to watch or something from,
yes.
Forbes magazine? And it shows a lot because when someone like that, a woman, is leading, then people are going to want to know, what you have behind you. So tell us what the most, I guess, important characteristic of a leader or influencer in the making is.
Thanks for that. So back in, I believe, 2015, I was named by Huffington Post top female entrepreneur to watch in 2015-16. And And then I wrote a book in 2013 called Sexy Boss. And when I first wrote that book, I really didn't know how it was going to come across. And it kind of exploded into this whole business. But what I've learned recently is that women find themselves stuck in this position of being an expert in something versus an influencer of, right? So what's the difference? An expert is saying, I am good at this one thing. But look, women, we are multifaceted on multiple levels, and we are truly influencers in our community. We're influencers in our home. We're influencers with our children, with our friends' children. We are true influencers, but we don't see ourselves that way. And so part of the conversation for myself this last 6 months, really 7 months, is saying, hey, ladies, step up into your own influence, into your own power, because you already are that. There's actually a stat that 80% of the businesses in America that are owned by men are run by women, okay? So what that means is we're already running the country. It's time that it's just like one removed. I mean, so many times I meet business owners that are male, and I always ask them, who's the woman behind the scenes? I will actually want to meet her. And they're like, I couldn't do anything without, whoever it is, right? And I'm like, great, move aside. I want to talk to her because I know she's actually the one who's influential running the show. And that's just the truth. But I want to pull those women forward and say it's time that you're in the spotlight and be the influencer that you know you are. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think it's an interesting distinction you make, because expert connotes that you have a big brain and you have a lot of information in that big old brain to share. But influencer has a certain power status that I don't know if people really know how to effectively wield that. And it's interesting that you brought up that statistic of women actually are running the businesses even though they might be male owned, or the face of the business might be male. What do you think is the biggest challenge women have with wielding and also communicating that they have that kind of power and that kind of status?
Because there's two things, okay? So the first thing I want to point out between influencer and expert is Oprah. Okay, first of all, we all know Oprah is like a huge influencer. But let's ask the question, what is she an expert of?
Getting people's influencing.
Getting right. Getting people's stories.
To do what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great example of a person who influences, but she doesn't pigeon herself whole into expertise in something. She's probably an expert in media and everything else, but she doesn't position herself. So that's number one, and I want people to really get that, especially the women. Number two, with the women behind the scenes, what I find is the number one thing is what I call being unapologetic and allowing themselves to give themselves permission to be in the forefront. We are very comfortable as women because we're socially taught that it's okay to be the wing behind the man or the woman behind the great man, whatever. It doesn't mean you're married to him or not. The point is we were taught that at a very young age, at a very, very, very cultural level. But the point is I want to pull them forward. Just today I was talking to a gentleman, and he's running a business, and I told him, I go, who's the person behind the scenes? And they told me, and I said, great, I'm going to now not talk to you, I'm talking to her, because I'm clear she's the one really running the show here, and I actually want to talk. And she started giggling and laughing. I was like, well,
damn, Kristen, she's bossy.
Yeah, but it's refreshing.
I love it.
It's true.
You are walking your talk.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very passionate about putting the spotlight on the true influencers. I think what happens is the women, they go, well, the person I'm working with or whoever, they're the expert in this, whatever the thing is. But I'm like, yeah, but you're influencing the whole company. You're influencing the family. You're influencing every decision. And I just want women to know you don't have to be, quote unquote, an expert to be the boss and to be the influence. And I think it's great what's happening with with our elections. And I think women are starting to step out and say, I want to influence, I want to learn, but I also want to learn how to be an influencer of other people and step out.
So what is the fine line there you keep talking about expert influencer. How does someone who is an expert step out into their influential power?
Yeah, that's a great question. I get that question all the time. One of the things I've had to learn for myself, I mean, I'm technically an expert in marketing, branding. I have years and years and years of experience of that. But what I'm learning is how is it that I become an influencer of an empowerment of women beyond just I could do this thing called marketing and branding. How can I influence brands and situations such that I can really empower more people? And I think that's the big question. So there's many women who are true influencers in their community, local community, political, or just, they're the PTA at their school. I mean, whatever it is. How do they say, well, I don't have to be an expert in something to be a voice for something? That's the shift. Being a voice for other people, being a voice for other. I mean, Oprah's a voice for all of us. I love watching her because she's always learning about spirituality, right? So she's asking the questions that you and I are thinking. Oh, what about this? What and so that's why we love her, because she's being our voice, and that's the difference. And also, expertise talk to you. They talk at you, right? Influencers talk with you.
I feel like also influencers, help people, right? They help people move forward with their spirituality or with their, helping people expand their expertise or their business or their political power, whatever it is. I think they help people take that next step, right, into what they could be.
Yeah, I agree. A lot like actors and actresses right now, there's a lot of actresses being advocates. I feel like the reason why they feel they can be a voice, conduit of other people, right? And I think that's the difference. And so when you're going into your expertise and we're going into business, I think a dentist or a realtor could be an influencer in the community. They don't have to just be a one thing. They can be an influencer of an entire community. So it's a very subtle shift, but it's happening more and more. It used to be back in the day, right? We'd have celebrities that we would have endorse Nike or whatever. But nowadays, big brands are saying, forget celebrities. We want influence, what we want to call common people that are just creating communities because people relate to them. They relate to them. And that's a big difference. That's why big brands are now putting a lot of money behind influencers today.
I think one of the things that's interesting about this whole expert versus influencer dynamic is you expect an expert to be able to produce the, and I'm using air quotes here, you can't see me, but right answer or the perfect answer and I think that's a trap for women too, because we sometimes get obsessed with perfectionism. Oh, I have to have the right thing to say, or I have to be able to produce the right solution. And how do women overcome wanting to be perfect in their communications?
Okay, so this is a great example. So I'm starting a new podcast called Crypto Like a Boss. Here's the deal. I know nothing about crypto. I'm clueless. Like, I'm learning as I go. But the reason why I'm doing it is because I feel like if I'm out there asking super crazy questions to these experts that are crypto, I'm not interested in being a crypto expert at all. But I want to be, hey, women, we should be in crypto. You should too. Listen to me. I'll ask the stupid questions for you. You can listen to their answers, and we can learn together. So I want to be an influence inside of crypto and blockchain for women, because I'm the one out there asking the questions and saying, hey, I'm an advocate for us to learn together. So I don't know anything about crypto, really. I mean, I'm learning as I go. That, to me, is an influencer. They don't have to know. Oprah she doesn't say she's spiritually, everything's perfect. She's over there going, I don't know what, let's bring in Eckhart Tolle over here. I don't know what I'm doing. She was a voice for us. And I think that we have to let go that as an expert, we have to know the answer. And as an influencer, we get to be the student.
As an influencer, we can pull other people in and have the questions answered.
Yeah.
Judy, that's what we do every week, don't we?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. awesome.
Well, and Heather,
I've learned so much on this show.
Yeah, and Heather, I'm glad you brought up crypto because it is a very male-dominated space right now. It's more than filmmaking.
To pick those male-dominated industries.
Well, it's like 95%. And Judy and I are entering this space with Bitmovio because that is a blockchain-based platform. And it's important that sometimes you have to take that, even if it's not pink and fuzzy and cuddly. As a woman, you have to be brave enough to take those first steps into something and not know what the beep is going on.
Right.
So I applaud you for that.
Yeah, thank you for that. And it's an interesting conversation because I've had all these conversations with men, right? And of course, they're telling me all the expertise. And I tell them, I go, look, I'm not trying to be an expert here. I want to learn. I'm interested in learning. But more importantly, the reason I'm trying to be out there more publicly about it is because I want other women to be like, well, if she's learning, I can listen in, right? And I want to learn with her so I don't feel stupid either. So that's one of the reasons, because I'm kind of tired of the whole finance world, very male dominated. It's just extremely male dominated. In crypto and blockchain, we are on a cutting edge of something so revolutionary. And if I have to be the one who's getting beat up along the way, fine. As long as there's women going, hey, if she can learn, I can learn too. I don't want it to be overwhelming for them. I don't want them to miss out on this huge opportunity.
I love it.
That's so courageous. It is. It's admirable. It's admirable, but that you're taking something and really dissecting it and laying it out there, and you're making yourself vulnerable also. Now,
very.
What? Yeah, I can hear that. So, what do you have to be careful of in that space?
Well, blockchain and crypto specifically, I think the big thing.
Well, I mean, in putting yourself out there with something you aren't really an expert at, right? So when influencers step out into their power, we're talking about, stepping from the expert to the influencer. What do people, that are doing that have to be careful of? Their brand, their reputation. I don't know. There are a lot of things that could be shaky.
Authentic. The big thing is being authentic. The reason why we love Oprah and so many other influencers, even Kim Kardashian, love her or hate her, right? The girl's completely authentic, right? You have to love her for who she is or who she's not, but she's authentic. This is who she is, and because of that, she's an influence for many people. Many actors and actresses too can be influential, but what I'm finding, what people really want, is someone saying, "Hey, I'm not perfect here. I'm just trying to learn myself." But I'm finding, though, like the YouTubers and a lot of different influencers in that world, it's mainly men. It's a lot of men because men they're able to get in front of the camera and just don't care. They'll fall, they'll mess up, they'll do all kinds of weird stuff in front of the camera. Women, forget about it, right?
Right? I don't know. Kristen does all kinds of weird stuff in front of the camra.
I do, but
cool. That's why I love her.
Well, thank you. But I'm laughing at this because I'm literally imagining friends of mine guy friends of mine just falling in front of the camera. But the thing is men are more comfortable with making mistakes and saying I messed up and just moving forward, whereas women take that. I'm about to generalize. Not only do they think too much, but it's, I messed up, therefore I can't mess up again. And what happens is there's a less of an ability to shrug things off. And that mistake, or what we perceive to be a mistake, which was just a creative failure, it becomes part of the identity. Instead of just something that happens or is happening or you're experiencing, and that's kind of where the trap is. But it's true. It is that men are more. They move through their mistakes and their foibles and their quirkiness or whatever it is much easier because they're encouraged to do so. Because men feel, I would think that men feel more supported in taking risks than women do.
Well, here's what it is. Let me point it out real quick. I don't know how much time I have, but this is the key. And I learned this from Kathy Griffin, of all people, a comedian. She's amazing. So And I love her. Like, I love hate her like I love her.
And she has her fair share of mistakes and foibles and stuff. We know that.
Oh, girl, please. That girl's got, like, all kinds of mistakes of her. But she talks about something very specific, and I want to put it on her because it's easier than me, right? But Kathy Griffin talks about the whole tobacco with her, you know, the Trump head thing and all that crazy stuff, okay? Now, she did the whole Trump tobacco with her head thing, okay? But here was her mistake, and she talks about this. This was her mistake. The mistake that she made, it wasn't necessarily that the picture. It was that she apologized 2-3 days later. And that's when her entire career got imploded. That it makes sense, right? But what happened is Cher, you know, good old Cher, gotta love Cher, Cher texted her privately and said, your mistake was that you apologized. You were more interested in being liked than standing for something.
Oh, ouch.
Right? And so, but if you look at it, it's true. Where is it in our lives, ladies? We're more interested in being liked than standing for something and taking the bullet hole. Because it's the people that actually really just stand for something and not interested in being liked that we remember. And I can name off a ton of men right now, men and women, either side of the fence, that you love and hate, but at least they're still standing. And they're standing for something. Women want to be liked.
And if you want to pull yourself out there and get branded and marketed and get a podcast and get to figure out how to be an influencer, we can contact you. Where can we find you, Heather Ann?
Yes. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. They can check me out at heatherhavenwood.com. The best way to get a hold of me actually is Instagram, and that's at Heather Havenwood.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We enjoy it always. You'll have to come back soon. Absolutely. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Well, we just had
someone else
Heather
that can get up and speak up and out. Let me tell you.
Yeah, well, we got Heather, and now we also have Odette Peak. She's a professional speaker. She's an experienced business coach and TED Talks alumni. She created Speak from the Soul and Sell in 6 minutes or less, which is a program to help entrepreneurs get more clients, make more money, and magnify their message to the world using the power of speaking. Odette can uncover the talk that lives inside of you and then arm you with an action plan to create instant impact and a lucrative income from your business. Welcome to the show, Odette.
Thank you so much. How are you, ladies?
We're great. Thank you. You know, it was so exciting to meet you and to listen to you at the What Women Want conference. And I'm just so excited to follow up and have our listeners follow up. And I wondered, you know, I really just want to get this out there. I'm speaking up. Odette, why is public speaking such a big fear for so many women? It's not like we don't know how to talk. Women talk. They have conversations. We've been talking for the past 30, 40 minutes here. Why?
Yeah, but no one's watching, so it's easier.
Well, Sam's probably watching me through a window over here going, this girl is a lunatic because I'm waving my arms around and cackling like a witch over here. But why is public speaking such a big leap for so many people who are normally just good communicators interpersonally?
Oh, wow. That's such a great question. And being a mom of 2 daughters who are 19 and 21 now, I really have seen sort of, it's like I'm reliving my life again. And it's kind of scary. I see the drama that they're caught in, and I see the image about who they feel they need to portray. And now they have the social media piece. It's like they don't want people, or we don't as women at a very young age, don't want people to see the real us. And so public speaking is basically you're standing up in front of a room full of people and you have all these eyeballs staring at you. And we do this instant shrinking on the inside of like, oh my God, I don't want to, you know, what do I look like? Does my hair look okay? Is my makeup okay? And we're very image conscious because of, you know, I'll just blame society as a whole at this point for now. But what happens is, as we grow older and we want to build our businesses, you got to speak in order to grow your business. To me, it's a belief that I have that you have to be speaking. And what I talk about when I'm talking about speak up, I'm really talking about you got to share your story. You've got to tell people who you really are from the inside out. And I am a perfect example of someone who never wanted to share the inside of me because I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I had it together. And I thought people aren't going to like me if they know like the crap that's happened to me in my life.
The truth, right?
The truth, yeah. And, you know, it's interesting. When I started to share my story, and it's only been about 4 years now, everything started to change for me. And what was happening, I stopped putting up the front of I'm just super powerful and I built a 7-figure business, so I think I'm so cool and I'm so amazing and nothing bad has ever happened to me. And when I started to share my story about the bad stuff, about the sad things like the divorce, I've had my last relationship, I got dumped, right? Mm-hmm. And you've got to share that stuff because there's people out there who look up to you no matter what level you're at. You don't have to be superhuman or Oprah or whoever, some of these ladies that you guys were talking about, the celebrities. You don't have to be that level. You just got to be you. And that is just enough. And you have people looking up at you going, wow, I wish I could be more like her.
I like that because I think it reveals that in vulnerability there is strength, and in vulnerability there is power. Not only that, but vulnerability communicates. So I guess one of the most vulnerable things that we can do is stand up in front of a group of people, however many sets of eyeballs are in the room, and say, this is who I am. So what was challenging about that for you when you first started really being revelatory instead of just posturing that you were this big bad woman with a big bad business?
Yeah, well, then that means I have to share some of my story. So when I went full time in my coaching business around 2010, I was in a new relationship, blended family relationship, and I thought, I have perfect opportunity to start my business. But 30 days after I started the full time, my partner said, you know what, Odette, you got to move out. It's not working out between us. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And that, being dumped is got to be one of those things where it's like, oh my God, like something must be wrong with me if I've been dumped. I can't tell anybody that. And about 30 days after that, both of my parents got sick and they both passed away within a couple of months of each other. And because of the stress of all of that, I literally woke up one morning paralyzed in my arms. I had developed an acute paralysis in my neck, in my shoulders, and for a year and a half, I couldn't move my upper body. But I still had to move out. I still had my kids to take care of. I was back to being a single parent, and there was a bad, I've healed from it, but a really bad relationship with my dad. And the last words that he said to me were, Odette, I've never forgiven you for what you've done when you were 18 years old. And there was this moment it was horrible. But there was this moment, and I really remember this moment where it was like a light switch. I went, no one is going to know what I'm experiencing right now. I am not going to tell anybody about this heartache, this pain. I'm going to pretend that I am superhuman, I'm strong, and I will persevere. And I didn't tell anybody, which, as you can imagine, made me even more sick.
Probably made things more harder because you were having to put up this mask to the world.
100%. And at the time, I didn't realize it because I kept thinking, well, if I'm going to be a business coach, I have to prove to people that I can withstand anything. Like, I can be that building in a hurricane. And what I was actually doing, I was repelling people. I was getting more and more withdrawn, and I didn't know what was going on until I literally had a what I call a couch moment, where I sat on the couch and I went, I just can't live my life like this anymore. I'm calling it a spiritual breakdown because back then there wasn't a spiritual bone in my body. I was so black and white for fear that if I showed my vulnerability, if I showed my soft side, people would not like me. And having that spiritual breakdown of literally wanting to forget everything and go work at Starbucks and be a barista and just whatever was a real changing point in my life. And everything from that moment on was about spirituality, getting deep within myself. But the most important thing was being honest with my real experience and then sharing my story of what actually happened in my life, but not from a victim standpoint, but from a power standpoint. And hence created and morphed my business into, what I'm calling Speak Up now. I have a program called Speak from the Soul, and it's all about story. And I'm very much a story-based coach now, which is so weird for me. People are like, God, you're so different.
Wow. Well, it's an interesting pivot, and I think you made an interesting distinction there between really saying this was my experience, but I'm not a victim of it. I can take this experience and make it into something else. Because I think tying back to what Judy and I were talking about at the very beginning of the show with the political wave that's happened, especially for women, is there has been this survival culture that I have survived this, whether it's sexual assault, whether it's harassment, whatever it is, and that it's now that we've gotten all of this awful, shadowy, dark experiences out in the open. Many of us have articulated what has happened to us, but it's not just enough to articulate, okay, this happened to me. It's about what do I do with it now? Now that I've gotten it out in the open, now that I've aired this out of my heart, what do I do with it now? So how do women take that revelation that they're making, sometimes in both public and private ways, and how do they channel that into something that's actionable and ultimately more life-giving and life-affirming for them, Odette? How do they get to the place that you got to?
And that's a really great question and a great pivot point, because I actually don't call my story my personal story. I call it my soul story. Mm-hmm. And our whole life is made up of, a million life experiences, what I call your soul story moments. And when we've all had experiences that have created who we are today, and the good, the bad, and the ugly experiences. And our soul story moments are the platform from which we need to create our soul story from. Whether you're a business owner or in corporate, or you're not, maybe you're a stay-at-home mom, or you're doing something retired, or whatever it is that whatever's happened to you in your life, you've survived it. And it's my belief that we do a disservice when we don't share our soul story with other people. So, and I'm just going to use the platform of entrepreneurship, that when you're in business, you're solving a pain for people and you have a solution for the pain. And often we've experienced that pain firsthand, or we've been witness to it. So the solution is very near and dear to our own experiences. That if we don't share our soul story with other people, whether it's on stage or online or in a book or on a blog, what happens is someone else in this world will not benefit from it. So let's say you were abused and you've experienced something very traumatic, that in that trauma and in your healing is someone else's experience, that we have a duty to share our transformation with other people, because even if you save one life, you've done the impact that you've been here to do in this world. And I'm going to use the word impact. I'm very big on about creating impact. And in order to create a ripple effect in this world, it's often done by story, right? If you go thousands of years ago, mm-hmm. It was all story-based. Somewhere along the way, and I was in sales in the 80s, we stopped story, and it was all about, forget about the vulnerability. Let's just work ourselves to death, because it's all about, business or the corporation. We're coming back into an age now where it is all story-based. And if you do take a look at the Me Too movement that has happened, what is so profound is one person has said, this happened to me, and there was a chain reaction. And this chain reaction has created the Me Too movement. And I believe, being a Canadian, I'm not really all that political with you guys in the U.S., but seeing what's happening with the elections in the last 24 hours, is the Me Too movement is now is spawning into other areas in the world, government, etc. And women are really finding their voice, and they're really laying having a foothold in it. And it's all because of, and I'll just use one person, it might be more, but who shared their story of, I can't live my life knowing what happened to me. I don't want it to happen to somebody else. And finally, we're just saying enough is enough.
Yeah, so I have a question for you. When is it going too far? I mean, some people, it's like they on and on and on, and you want to hear what they're about, and you want to have compassion for people, but there are also people who repeat themselves over and over again, and they can't stop sharing their story, and it doesn't seem like they ever really want to reel it in. So what is the point where we're maybe going too far with this?
I think it's really about, it becomes a skill, right? To share your story, it's a skill set. It's a skill set and a mindset. And it's like anything. If you're, you're building a business, you need to learn the tools and the strategies. Telling your story, you need to learn the tool and the strategy and how to do it effectively so that it's heard by other people. And, I did an event last week, and someone asked this question, is that they said, you shouldn't tell your story, or you shouldn't actually speak or be a speaker and share a part of you unless you're over your pain and you're over whatever happened to you. And I said that is true to an extent, but I don't think you ever get over what happened to you. What you need to do is get comfortable. You need to heal from the inside out. There needs to be a place of forgiveness of whatever happened to you or whatever, but it's about self-forgiveness.
And pulling the most important parts of the story out, which I believe you help people do, correct?
100%. And it's about being able to pull out the what I call the golden moments, and to be able to have those shine, and then cut out all the fat of everything else that is being said. Because then what happens is it gets clouded. The essence of your story gets lost in a lot of gibberish, and it's like we're afraid to pause. So I think just people need to learn how to share their story in a way that doesn't come from a place of victim land, but comes from a place of power and a place of impact. That I'm sharing my story to help support other people who may have experienced what I'm experienced. And then stop talking about it. Does that make sense?
I think and I think one of the things is that we have to understand, whether you're on the radio, whether you're in front of a TV camera, whether you're like Odette and in a room of 300 women like you were a few weeks ago, I think one of the things is that everything is about consent. We consented all to be on the radio tonight at this time and at this place. You have to also gauge receptivity. I think, Odette, I think that's important too, right? That you need to find where your message and your story is also going to be best received. Am I right about that too?
Well, I think also with someone like Odette, it's, she's been trained to read the crowd,
right?
And I'm sure you probably, Odette, when you're standing up there on stage, you see what people are doing, twitching, taking out their cell phones, whatever it is, and how to pivot and really tailor that to your audience, which I find is fascinating. I'm sure body language has a lot to do with it.
Absolutely, and it's also just about being able to read the energy in the room. And when you see a speaker who is talking and talking and talking, whether it's about story or content, they're it's almost like from a self-serving purpose, and you can feel the energy in the room shifting, and it's really easy to see. You sit in the back of the room and you can watch how people all of a sudden start shifting, right? That's my favorite spot, is the back of the room, so I can gauge and see what's happening. And you need to be in tune. You need to be in tune with your
Nobody
story.
shifted when you spoke, though, Odette. Everybody was riveted.
First.
They were riveted on you.
Well, I think it's and thank you for that. I think ultimately it's knowing how to take your story and to dissect it into bite-sized chunks and marry it with the content of what you're teaching. And I like to have a call to action all throughout my talk, so that I'm moving people into action by having them just start with thinking differently and doing differently. And I do a lot of experiential work in my talks to deepen the learning for people, and so that they can, when you're listening to someone, you can almost feel yourself in that story of the speaker. But what I want people to do is live their own story while they're experiencing it with me, so that we take a journey together. And to me, it's a new way of being a speaker, is including your audience in the journey with you. And having an emotional connection is so important with your audience, so that they feel you.
And I want to get to your event that you have coming up in December, but really quick, we only have a few minutes left. I would love to hear that story. I've heard it a couple of times now, and I just can't get enough of it, of when you first got up to speak and you had 2 minutes and you didn't know what you were going to say. I love this. It's awesome.
I actually have the picture of that too. I had wild and crazy hair. Just totally 6 or 7 years ago when I just started my business, and I was out networking. And I went to a networking event that I didn't know anybody, and I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't know anybody, so I'll just be the wallflower. And it was at a super noisy bar. And the organizer said, hey, Odette, you know what? We don't know you. Can you just jump up in front of the room, give us 2 minutes, tell us who you are and what you do? I'm like, sure. And I'm an opportunity seeker, but I was also scared to death. So I started writing on a napkin, and I thought, oh, I got to write down who I am and what I do on this napkin. And I thought, well, this is silly. So it didn't work. I took a breath, and I went up in front of the room, and I practically had to stand on the bar because it was so loud and so noisy. And I just said who I was, what I did, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to throw a really quick call to action at the end of my talk. And I said, so I don't know anybody here. Please come up and talk to me and let me know who you are so that we can have, start a relationship. And I said it because I was too afraid to go talk to anybody else. I wanted them to come to me. And by the end of the night, I closed about $20,000 in business on the spot. A week later, because I'm a master follow-upper, I closed another $20K. And what was super, super cool was I met a woman who was an organizer of an event in the Toronto area. She did like 1,000-person event. That's what she does here. And she said, you know what? Your story inspires me. Let's have a conversation. I'd love you to be my keynote. 6 months later, I was her keynote and made over $100,000. And this is mind-boggling to me because it was a 2-minute talk that I didn't want to do. I almost didn't go to. I wasn't even all dressed all fancy. So when people say to me, how do you make money in business? What do I got to do? I say, you know what? Tell us who you are and what you do and just throw a quick call to action in it. And boom, I can teach you how to make $20K in 2 minutes.
I love that. And your event not only teaches them that, but puts them in the place of, it's almost like a mock-up of when they're going to speak. Because I know learning all this in front of audiences, it can be a wild card, right? I mean, it's like almost like you want a hands-on experience with a ready-made audience and someone to tell you what to do while you're doing it. Tell us about the event in Tampa. It's called Speak Up, right?
Yep, it's called Speak Up Live from Center Stage. And I want to give, because I'm all about experiential, I want people to experience what it's like to be a speaker, even though they've never spoken before, or they might have spoken for a long time. They're not getting the results that they want. And the results I'm talking about are how to be able to monetize speaking. So, and how to share your story all at the same time. So the event that I'm having is Tampa on December 6th to the 8th. It's at at a place called Overnight Success Studios. And it's a makeshift studio, but it's got space for seating for an audience. So it's got a stage, it's got 3 video cameras, it's got all the lights, the confidence monitor, the green room, the video room, all of it. So instead of having your typical conference where people just sit in an audience, listen, take notes, and then go home and try to figure it out themselves, I'm giving people in the 3-day event a full-on experience of what it's like to be a speaker, to tell their story, to learn how to sell from the front of the room, to how to put a talk together, and to get the feedback from not only me, because I'll be in the audience most of the time, coaching them from the back of the room, but they're going to have an audience of people who, one of the most scariest things,
an empathetic audience,
everybody staring at you. That's right, an empathetic. That's the word. That they're there just to help. And when you're an audience member looking at someone and you're all in the same training together, you see what you're doing or not doing, and you're like, oh, I get it now. It's totally different. So, I've got a couple spots left. I'm super excited, and I would love to have people who are ready to have speaking be part of their business and want to make money from it.
And how can they sign up?
Yeah, so you can reach out. So the event is called Speak Up Live from Center Stage. And I don't know if you have the Bitly link that you'll be able to put. But you know what? Do you have that?
We can. I do have the Bitly link, but we're on the radio. So just tell them, can they go to OdettePeak.com to find out more?
Yes,
okay.
Please. Yeah. You know what? I'll pop an email to my team, and it's hello@OdettePeak.com. So it's OdettePeek.com. And one of my members will send you the information and see if it's a good fit for you.
Well, that sounds like a fantastic event, and I'm sure it's a good fit for people who are beginning to people who, are wanting to be professional speakers and have already been speaking. We can always hone our craft. So thank you so much. And thank you for coming on the show this evening. It was such a pleasure speaking to you, Odette, and also to have you at our conference. We appreciate your support, too. Sure. And Kristen, guess who's coming back next week?
Is it Dr. Robbie?
It is. Yay! Dr. Robbie Ludwig. She was our opening keynote, Odette, for our first national conference last year. Dr. Robbie Ludwig is an award-winning reporter and psychotherapist, and she is going to come back this time with her mom, who actually I met her, and she may be more outspoken than her daughter. I'm not sure.
Whoa.
I know. I mean, she is. She just puts me in stitches. I can't even stand it. So we're going to put our feet up and listen to her talk for a little while. And for everyone else, thank you for listening. Don't miss even one show. Go to whatwomenwantradio.com for more. And we'll see you next week. Good night.
You're listening to What Women Want with Judy Goss and Kristen West, only on LA Talk Radio.